Let's talk about my biggest game of the week, Nebraska and Colorado. This was, take away all the rankings, this was a pivotal matchup between two programs who, if they win this game, in the way that they win this game, will set them on a crazy trajectory for the rest of the year. Nebraska wins this game, they potentially go 7-0 going to Ohio State, and they are even in a prime position to potentially make a playoff run depending on how they finish the rest of the season after that Ohio State game, which I think they still end up losing. But you never know in college football. NIU just beat Notre Dame. Colorado wins this. This is a pivotal matchup to the same, if not much larger degree than TCU. This is a signature win for Deion Sanders to continue their momentum from last year. Yes, you may say, what momentum? They went 4-8. This was the worst program in college football that won one game this season prior, and they quadrupled it to 4 wins. This would set them on a crazy trajectory for the rest of the season. A team that continuously, whether it's warranted or not, because I agree to the fact that some of the media just tries to find headlines with Colorado, but they also put themselves in these positions as well. It goes both ways. And Colorado walked and talked and treated like they were a Big 12 championship contender. And they're just not. They build their program through the transfer portal. It's the opposite of what Clemson does. Clemson does everything through recruiting, through the traditional sense of high school. They have a vanilla cake, it's good. It's a good vanilla cake, no frosting. Then you have Colorado. It's all frosting, no cake. And it looks good, it tastes good a little bit, but you're going to get a stomach ache after a while. That's just how these programs are built. And Shedeur looks great. He's a good NFL prospect. He's a great college quarterback. Travis Hunter is incredible to watch. I still think he's probably the best player in the nation. But Colorado is just not good enough. They're not good enough. They're not prepared enough. They did not come out with enough energy after getting absolutely punched in the face. They got sucker punched, both of their front teeth out, and they did not put up a fight. They didn't have enough energy in the second half. They looked defeated. That's what the broadcast said. And it looked like it on the field. If you muted your TV, you would think this team looks defeated and the game wasn't even halfway done. And so the question I ask on TikTok, and the question I continuously ask is, what is the plan for Shedeur Sanders and Deion and company after this? Because clearly it's Travis Hunter, Shedeur are going to the NFL. Jimmy Horn probably will get drafted as well. Just because that dude's electric in his speed, whatever. But what's the plan for Deion? What's Colorado going to look like the following year? Is Deion going to retire? Was this a 2-year run with his kid? Because he talks about how he's more than just his family and his kids, that this is something he wants to build and become bigger. But if you look at this program, they are clearly so many steps behind it. I get it. They could run the table and probably win the Big 12. If they were to run the table, they win the Big 12. There is, Doctor Strange, there is a reality where that happens. But they look like the same team last year. This gave the same vibes of Oregon from last year. They played a real team and they got mauled. They went into a hornet's nest and got mauled. That was bad. Number 9, I believe his last name's Robertson, looked like Ndamukong Suh 2.0. Dylan Raiola, people make fun of him looking like Patrick Mahomes. He just looked poised. He looked like a guy that was just making magic. I get it. There was a couple plays where Colorado did get screwed. Jimmy Horn made that catch. Objectively, he got his foot in. There was a couple flags that should have gone Colorado's way. I hear you on that. There was even a pick that probably should have been thrown by Dylan Raiola. Pops up in the air. Nebraska makes a play. But leading up to those decisions, the game was already feeling like it was over. I recorded my TikTok when they were down 21-0 because it looked like they had no life in it. They had no life. It was over already. They got punched in the mouth, and it all started with that Tommy Hill pick, which was an egregiously bad throw from Shedeur Sanders because all they can run is shotgun. That's all they got. They cannot run the ball. 5 carries for 32 yards. They're not even trying. They're not even trying to run the ball. It's just not good enough. It's just not going to be good enough to just run shotgun with that bad of an offense. You are looking for a recipe of disaster every single time you face a competent defensive line. Every single time. And so shout out to Nebraska. Shout out to them making the game plan simple for Raiola. Shout out to them for using their running backs and dominating this game for all 4 quarters. I get it. They did not score a single point in the second half, but there was not a moment where you're like, oh, Colorado's fighting back. Hell, they got to 18 points and they basically threw up the white flag. And we have to talk about Shedeur Sanders leaving the game with 2 minutes left, down 18, and going into the locker room. Because if it was for injury, cool. Got it. Hear you out. I hear you out. I'm not trying to be, the old NFL scout that's like judging a man for who he is. But the one thing I want to point out is all through April, in the entire draft process, I had to listen about Caleb Williams and his pain in nails and how he cried on the sidelines after losing to Utah, and people just absolutely torched him. And then if Shedeur Sanders leaves a game early, which objectively is just a bad look, it feeds into the fact that of these rumors, and whether you want to say they're warranted or not, rumors that it is Shedeur and Travis, which it looks like that on the field, and everyone else. But when you do not have that cohesion as a team, it's a bad look. It is a bad look. And my point is if you torch Caleb, torch Shedeur for the same thing. It's not one for one in the actions, but if you want to dive deeper and ridicule players for this, go ahead and keep it the same energy. It's not a good look, though. I think if it was for an injury and they want to disclose it, fine. But if it's not that, and he just left because they were getting beat down, and he had his I don't know if it was his like friends or because it didn't look like staffers. There might have been a couple, but that leave the field early, that's not a good look. It's not a good look. In Colorado, I have so much more to say. Shout out to Nebraska, a team that is getting a bounce back. People tell me, what is the Matt Rule year 2 effect? This is it. A competent team, a polished team, a team that wants to fight for 4 quarters and shake your hand afterward and say, good game. Because that's what he said. That's the culture he put with this team. And he has full trust with Raiola, and he looks incredible. He looks like Patrick Mahomes. But good job by Nebraska objectively.